Here, brothers, in here, I found it! Here lie the ancient texts. What knowledge may we glean? What is Thaco?
The Archaeologist, one of the more obscure archetypes in the Pathfinder 2e system, and one that I really never see used too often. It should be really cool, right? Running around like Indiana Jones, deciphering ancient texts and disarming traps. Well, let's see if it reflects that. Howdy. My name is Nonat, and welcome to the deep dive into the Archaeologist subclass. I was so close! I'm leaving it in. It's an archetype. Screw it. The dedication right off the bat is excellent. You do need to already be trained in perception, which there's no player character in the world who's not trained in perception. Trained in society and trained in thievery. Just from taking this dedication, society and thievery are both bumped up to expert proficiency. This is fantastic because unless you're a rogue, you can't bump a proficiency up to expert until level 3 at the earliest without something like this dedication. And that's 2 skill boosts. This means by level 3, you'll already have 3 expert skill proficiencies, or 4 if you're a rogue. You also get a +1 circumstance bonus to recalling knowledge specifically about ancient histories, peoples, and their culture. If you want to know what ancient Absalonians used to eat for breakfast, you know you get +1 on that check. That's all it gives you. Nothing terribly exciting, but some great skill proficiency bumps and some little bonuses that are a bit niche, but let's see what else it has to offer at level 4. We actually have 3 different feats available to the Archaeologist at level 4, giving you plenty of choice between magical scholastics, settlement scholastics, and trap finder. Trap Finder is the exact same as the rogue feat of the same name. It basically makes you better at finding and better at resisting traps. +1 bonuses to perception checks to find them, +1 to armor class to defend against them, and +1 to saving throws to avoid them. Plus, you no longer need to be searching for traps. This is one of the best benefits, but it does rely on your GM remembering you have it. As long as you are exploring, you are automatically considered searching for it, and you don't need to actively take that action. Additionally, once you reach Master Proficiency with Thievery, those bonuses increase to +2. There's also an additional effect that allows you to disable traps that require Mastery in Thievery, or Master Proficiency rather, but I've never come across that in gameplay. I've never really seen something that requires X proficiency outside of Trained or Expert. I'm sure it's out there, but it doesn't come up very often. If you'd like to delve a bit more into the magical side of archaeology, Magical Scholastics is the one for you. The downside is it's not terribly exciting. You get Detect Magic, Guidance, and Read Aura as cantrips. Now, don't get me wrong, Detect Magic and Read Aura are incredibly useful cantrips, and the +1 from Guidance isn't negligible. The downside is you'll need to do your research on how Detect Magic and Read Aura works, because they're so complicated in this game. TLDR, Detect Magic tells you if there's magic, Read Aura lets you know what that magic is. And the third direction you can go with your Archaeologist is just more knowledge-based with Settlement Scholastics. You get a free lore skill proficiency. I mean, it's not free, you're spending a class fee, but you know what I mean. Now, what's great about this is you instantly become expert in it. If you choose Lore Absalom, even if you weren't trained in it already, you're just an expert now, which is a phenomenal bump, just going from nothing to expert. Alternatively, if you were already, let's say, trained in Lore Absalom, you bump that up to expert and then get trained proficiency on a different settlement, a really nice bonus overall. Plus, you get to learn a new language based on the languages spoken in your chosen settlement. These are really the 3 different directions you can go with the Archaeologist, which is trap-based, magic-based, and lore-based, but there's also nothing really stopping you from taking bits and pieces from each one, because going forward, you get the feats all at different levels. It's just those 3 level 4 feats that are stuck with one another. At level 7, they get Scholastic Identification, and just like last time, this is a skill feat, which means it doesn't cost a class feat to get it, you just get it as a skill feat. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we went over it last time when we talked about the Acrobat. This is honestly a super cool skill feat. You do need to be Master in Society by this point. It's at level 7, so you pretty much have to take Society as your level 7 skill bump. But if you do, and you take Scholastic Identification, you can now roll Society to identify any writing. Doesn't matter what language, doesn't matter what culture, you can roll Society to decipher it. And you can now use society to identify magical objects, provided that object has cultural significance. Maybe you find a warhammer in a chest of an abandoned dwarven city. Well, you could totally say, I'd like to roll society to identify it because it's clearly of dwarven craftsmanship and it's their culture that created it, and maybe you could identify it as, a +2 greater striking warhammer. Very cool, very fun. Love the ability to just decipher writing at all times. Really awesome. Archaeologist luck at level 8 is a little bit niche, but super useful in specific situations like dungeon delving. If you ever fail to disarm a trap or fail your reflex save against the effects of a trap, you can re-roll and use the new result. Keep in mind, this is not roll and use the highest, so if you fail and then roll a 1, you just turned it into a critical fail. That can happen. But the fact that you can do this once per hour is amazing, and you only have to use it if you've already failed. You don't use it beforehand to roll advantage effectively. This is a fail safe, which is great to have. Level 10's Delay Trap, once again, is the same as the rogue feat of the same name, and as a reaction, if a trap within your reach is triggered, you can instantly attempt a thievery check to disable it. However, this does increase the DC by 5, so in exchange for being able to do it after triggering it, it's harder. And you can't disable it this way. If you critically succeed your thievery check, which with a +5 DC is not necessarily going to happen, you can either delay the activation until the start of your next turn, or prevent the activation altogether, effectively resetting it. If you succeed, you get the same options, but the GM picks for you specifically whichever one is worse. And the worst part is if you crit fail this reaction, you become flat-footed until the start of your next turn, so if this trap starts shooting attack rolls, you are not very safe. And the final feat at level 10, once again, the archetype just caps off at level 10. Greater Magical Scholastics. You do need to have taken normal Magical Scholastics to qualify for this feat, and it gives you 3 new spells you can use once per day. Augury, Locate, and Non-Detection. TLDR, Augury allows you to look 30 minutes into the future, and the GM will tell you good things ahead, bad things ahead, both ahead, or nothing ahead. Locate, give you 5 guesses what Locate does. And Non-Detection allows you to hide any magical power, and you can specifically only cast this on objects as an archaeologist. You've got the Arc de Triomphe in your back pocket, maybe cast Non-Detection so none of its magic seeps out of your pocket so people don't know you're traveling with a priceless artifact maybe. And that's the Archaeologist. Overall, not bad. It is not a powerhouse archetype like the Acrobat, but you're going to find that a lot of these archetypes aren't designed with that in mind at all. The developers have gone on record saying a lot of these archetypes are just there to add flavor. A few bonuses here and there, of course, because you don't want to waste your class feats, but overall, these are giving you unique mechanics and bonuses that reflect the flavor of the archetype. You're not just a rogue anymore. You're a rogue who specializes in archaeology and can cast a little bit of magic. Or maybe you're a wizard who specializes in archaeology, so even though you're just a normal spellcaster, you've got some resilience and resistance against traps. There's a lot of cool ways to use these, and I think you can have a lot of fun theory crafting characters with them. Just don't go into a lot of these archetypes looking for +4 to attack rolls, because you're not gonna find it. That's it for the Archaeologist. I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons and YouTube members for supporting the channel. If you want to become one, there's a blue join button down below the video right next to that red subscribe button, which you should click while you're down there. And hey, did you like this archetype video? I have another one that I released last week about the Acrobat. Do yourself a favor and go check it out, because the Acrobat is easily one of my favorite archetypes of all time. That's it from me. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, no nat ones.